For the ones online, Andres, can you see the screen?
Yes, perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna go in 30 minutes there, but yeah, we see perfect.
Okay, well, thanks. Make this a little bit less. Does anyone know how to turn these lights off so you have a better?
All off.
Yeah, although
And then you tune on that one.
these ones. But I'm pretty sure there's a spot somewhere.
That should work.
Yeah.
That's fine. Sweet. Hi, David. Okay, so guys, so for the session today, the workshop, it can be run by you in your computers, but just in case you have the Claude membership, right? If you don't have it, I'll run everything on the screen and it should be fine. If you want to follow it, you have the Claude subscription, you can get the full the presentation there in my GitHub. Later, I'll be pushing to that GitHub everything that we do today, so then you can download it and play with yourself with it. Right? Okay, guys, so let's start it. Yes, I'm recording it. I think, yeah. So the key thing, so first of all, thanks for coming. As you can see there, this is about, well, academic productivity with AI. It's a workshop centered on Claude Code. I'm Alberto Ardit. If you don't know me, I'm a lecturer here. I'm also an AI fake guru, as you can see there. The reason that I consider it still fake is because I have been using this tool for probably only like 3 months or something. So, but it has been such a change, kind of a game changer for me in terms of productivity that I kind of feel the need just to share it with my colleagues. Right? So, hi. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, first look, so what is Claude? Let's open it. I'll show it to you quickly what it is. So we will be running this stuff like in real time. So when you go, so for example, this is the folder that we are working on, right? So this is the environment that the Claude will be working on. The way to get there is just simply by, so we get here, we copy the folder and then change directory. So this is a terminal. I guess most of you are familiar with it. If you're not, there is a kind of an equivalent Claude Code version that you can just run with an interface, but this is the most optimal way to use it, right? So guys, this is the terminal. This is the guys, if you don't know them, right? So, and then once you have installed it, also in the folder that I will upload to my GitHub, there are some instructions for installing Claude Code. So it should be all right. And then you just run Claude, right? So you type Claude there in the terminal, and now I'm running on dangerously skip permission. It's because I'm already know how to use it, but at the beginning you don't wanna type that. So I'm giving like some permissions of writing and stuff like that. We'll get into that later, right? So when I run it, what you get is something, just probably increase the size of it. So it asks me, I can trust this folder. And there we are. Welcome back, David. Well, you know now who is paying for my subscription. So I'm running on the Cloud Max now, and this is David's account. So yeah, cool. Okay.
And your records.
Yes. Yeah. Rather expose you than myself.
But how does it work though within the university? Are we all expected to pay for our own subscription, or how is there?
We haven't solved it yet. So today I'll show you what it can do, and then I'm leaving a lot of time for discussion on terms like, what the university should do later.
We're working on the other part of it.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do here is, for example, if I can, let's go back to the presentation mode. Let's start interacting with it, right? So run this. Let's copy and paste that. Hello, what can you see in this folder? Okay, it's doing some stuff, it's consuming some tokens. You can see it's tracking everything there. So here's what is in this folder. There is a file containing installation instructor, the tutor presentation that I'm giving, and some temporary stuff that I probably delete from the folder that is not there yet, right? So this is, guys, what it looks. This is what I call like context aware in a sense, right? Because we are like, Claude in this sense is exploring what is in the directory, and it's ready, to, if you put some file there, so it will read them and get an understanding of the project that you are working on. For example, and this is related to this particular seminar. So I was thinking about like what should be the topic of this seminar, given that we have some friends here from the Earth and Environment. So thanks for coming, guys. I thought, okay, what is the kind of an area that every civil engineer can understand quite easily? And I asked it to Claude at some point. I'm running a data analysis workshop for civil engineer academics. I need an infrastructure example. Bridges, right? Everybody understands bridges, even the geologists in the room, I hope, right? And this is saying, give me some advice of what I could use. Actually, this is what I did like when I was preparing this, right? So in that sense, like it's not looking at the folder, it's just looking online and getting, some thinking about what we should be doing here in this session. Next, locally, I already developed a prompt for you, right? That is looking for that bridge information. So this will be the first prompt that we'll be running with Claude. So we go back to Claude, interface, and I'll paste it, run it, and then go back to it so we can check it out what's happening there, right? Okay, let's go back to, let's let it think. So it will be doing something for like 3 to 5 minutes. Meanwhile, we can talk about what is inside there, right? So the first thing that Claude Code can do that a browser like the ChatGPT bot that you have probably been using cannot do is reach out the web, download a real database, a real data set, and check what is on there just in one prompt, right? So that's the first big difference. So the key thing here is like, this is not a question, right? This is kind of an entire workflow in a single prompt. You can see there, like in those steps to follow, we are like giving indications to find the data, to download it, to clean it, and to structure it. You can see, for example, here that I'm not giving, for example, in point 3, work with zip files, txt, whatever that you can find, identify it and put it in the format that I want. So we are kind of telling ahead how to handle all of the from like database that we get. Yeah.
In New Zealand, we have some online GIS databases, but you need a login and an account to access it, to download the data. So do you already need to have that organized and sorted to do this?
You can link it to your accounts and you can provide the permission to use it if you want to download something. I haven't downloaded GIS files yet, but I have used it for download weather data for the camels, some from data from the UK, and I provide like what are the, the kind of the way to access it with my account, and it worked, right? But yeah, that's a little bit risky sometimes, but it can be done. You can link it like to accounts and software and some other ones, right? So it's not.
Do you want to be putting your password in the prompts? In order to.
Yeah, that's why you want to avoid. Actually, one time I tried it and Claude said, man, you shouldn't be sharing this with me. Right? Yeah.
This instruction seems like if I would prepare the prompt, since I already know all the information there, so it seems like I could actually do it myself. So would the AI say, actually, I don't have very detailed information about the file or server,
Yeah.
and would the clock be able to figure out what's the right way to extract, what's the right way?
Yeah, the way like I asked it before, what is the best topic for the fires for the civil engineer workshop? And then it said like, go to look for this inventory. If you have some knowledge, you want to do some previous research, you can also use Claude Code for it. But then you want to point it in the right direction so it gets something that is meaningful for you, right? So in this case, I already know that the database is in the FHWA, and then it looks for it, right?
If we do not know, would the clock be able to kind of think what should be the right?
Yeah, it will probably say like, man, I have found this and this and this. Where do you want me to start downloading data from the IPCC center for this one, for this one, for this one? And then you get like, okay, go for this one, right? But what you want to be is kind of, you want to be kind of have a kind of a structure behind it to make it work better. That's what I'm building these prompts that are kind of emphasizing finding data, download it, clean it, and then kind of structure it and summarize it, right? So this is what this stuff is doing. Just to give you a quick, I guess, let me check if the other stuff is, if it has downloaded the data already. Yeah, so it took 3 minutes. We're going to check it out probably now. So we were working on this folder, and you create this folder, bridge risk demo. And inside of it, there is a Excel file. Let's open it to see what it got. So I asked specifically for that format in the output for a CSV file. And it gives us something like this. I'll increase it a little bit. So you have a database of like 56,000 bridges from Texas. In this case, I'm working with Texas just because there are many bridges there. And then you have a bunch of columns indicating the features of that particular one, right? So in particular, when I checked this database, there were some interesting ones like the year that it was built, the condition, the overall condition of it, how many traffic do you have like every day over that bridge and stuff like that, right? So you have a bunch of data set, a large data set that you can start like playing with it and start like thinking about the whole thing, right? So then let's go back to, I'll just jump to the next prompt and we will back to this slide soon, but we wanna, as this takes some time, I'll just let it run and then we will back to this prompt a little bit later.
I've just been running along here and it downloaded a text file, not a CSV file, and then converted it to a CSV file for me. Did it do that for you or did it actually pull down a CSV file?
I don't think it probably pulled down a TXT and then converted it into a CSV because I asked explicitly for a CSV output. Yeah.
Which is one of the advantages, it just did it for you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So here, actually, this is the output of the previous one. It gives us like some, some summary of what it downloaded, a bunch of like stuff that we can check it out a little bit later. But I'm just printing, copy and pasting the next prompt, and we'll back to the presentation and go back to this prompt in a bit. So just back to where we're here. Sorry. Okay, guys, just a quick, so we run this one, the download data, This is just like some ideas about how is it different from the chatbot that we have been using there on the web, right? So in a chat window, you typically ask questions and you upload the file and so on, and you get an answer, right? It's great for quick tasks like writing an email, summarizing a paper, brainstorming idea. So I think of it as it's kind of a smart assistant for you in a sense, the chatbot. On the other hand, Claude Code running in your terminal is something that is quite different. It's working inside your environment, right? So with your approval, of course, it can see your files, it can read this, it can read the files, it can write and execute code and create like new files for you, right? So instead of saying, you know, in the chatbot, you will go like, here's my data, can you analyze it? In this case, you know, it's more like go into this folder, run the analysis, generate the figures, and save the results, right? So it's like you have like this idea of like context aware in a sense. So in the chatbot, I guess you're working like conversation by conversation, while in this case, it understands quickly your entire project, right? So you give the proper context for the whole thing. In that sense, like I think like ChatGPT, like the chatbots online can help you to think faster in a sense, but these kind of tools help you to kind of work faster, right? Because it's building stuff for you on the. So yeah, that's where I got that punchy line at the end. And just some other ideas about like why Claude Code in this case feels different. So Claude Code, it was the first of its kind, but now all the other companies are building stuff similar, like ChatGPT have a Codex and probably the other ones will jump into some similar tools, right? But why it does like feel, I think, different in practice compared to just ChatGPT? You know, it read your existing work. It could read like your lectures, your database, your script, your paper. So instead of starting from zero every time that you run it, it stands from your context, right? So that's kind of the key difference.
So when you say it reads your lectures, can it listen to your lectures too?
Yes. Yes. And it can create audios for you too, for prepare them, for example. So it understand the project as a whole. I think that's what I'm trying to say, right? So it just because it read like on kind of the context that you provided. So when you ask for something, it's not like guessing in a sense. It's responding based on your project and how your project is being organized, right? So now you are not just copy and pasting from a chatbot anymore. You are, you know, integrating it directly into your project. So in a sense, it's not like an assistant, it's more like a collaborator. Okay, cool. So we were running this one. So this process was is another prompt on, you know, show how to turn Claude into an structured data analysis, right? So that's the typical stuff that we do after we get a database. We, you know, try to construct some understanding of it with some systematic way of doing it, right? So in this case, what I'm giving is just a clear instructions where to read the data. I give the folder, where to save the outputs, and what to include in those outputs, right? And it typically works in this case through 4 steps. So data overview, you know, giving us some key column definition, data quality checks, and at the end I'm giving like, okay, give me some domain specific insights for us. So in this case, you can see like all of these prompts are quite developed in a sense. So a well-designed prompt leads to a consistent, high-quality analytical output, right? So the prompting part is kind of essential here for getting what you want. So we run that in the other. We were running that here. It already creates. So done. The report is safe in breach risk outputs data description MD. So MD is just a text file. So it's saved here, data descriptions. And what we want from there, let me check if I can zoom into this a little bit. right? So you have the Texas Bridge Inventory. This is an overview, number of records, 56,000, number of columns, the dates, the size, whatever, key columns. It gives you like some information on what you think is the best columns to work with there. At the end, it's also giving some insights that I asked, like 5 observations from a bridge engineer. Observation, near half of the Texas bridge have exceeded 5-year design life, and some insight that helps you to understand basically some key information that is in that document particular, right? Of course, you want to then like go there and check it, but this is giving you like a first insight on it. Observation 5, rural counties show the highest poor conditions rates and so on, right? And we keep like a record of that. So then we can, if we run this again, we can say, okay, go and look for that file and get it into your context. Okay, cool. So I'll try to locate the next prompt, and then we will go back to this and I'll run it, and we will same again. We will go back to it and try, and I'll explain it more in detail, but just for the purpose of time, we want to start running stuff sooner than later. Okay, so we were here in our stuff, and I'm pasting the next prompt. Just leave it there. Let's go back to the presentation and let's give it a thought on what we're doing. Okay, so we run the Explore dataset. Now we're running the next one. I think this is this part, or this prompt, is probably the most important kind of habit that I will show it today, and it's called plan mode, right? So this is what makes Claude Code quite different in a sense. The key idea is that you plan first and then execute, right? So we haven't done like any like deep work, research, analysis yet. So most people use AI when you go to ChatGPT and they ask for a code, hit enter, and then they debug whatever comes out, right? That's kind of the classical approach. And that works fine when you're working for kind of a small task, but it kind of completely breaks when you're dealing with something big or non-trivial in a sense. So in this case, so the way that Claude deals with that is with this plan mode style. So the key idea is that like before writing any single like code for analysis, it maps out the entire job, right? So that's what plan mode is. What are going to be the files, the steps, the functions, the decisions that are going to be made. Nothing is executed yet, just in kind of in plan mode. So in a sense, like the output of these plans, you can think about as a kind of a proposal from a research, like a PhD student proposal, for example. You try to just to map the whole thing out before executing it, right? So the mindset is like, I think it's more like we're not using AI to kind of answer or generate answers. We are trying to kind of design a solution first, right? So we want to map the whole thing first. And then execute it, right? So that's what I'm putting there. So this is the prompt that I just put in Claude Code. So I think like when you read it, like the opening instruction, I think is probably the most important line, which is before writing any code, and this kind of activate the plan mode for code, right? So if you don't put something like that, it will start coding immediately, right? So we are giving clear indications that first we're planning, right? And then executing. And the fourth step that follow, those kind of, I guess, 2 jobs in once. So the first one is about like organizing the Claude output, right? But it also, these kind of prompts kind of force Claude to think kind of in the right sequence, right? So we don't want to jump into the last part, but just go systematically over what we are constructing, right? At the end, I put like, again, do not write any code yet, output plan only. And my experience is sometimes when you are providing these long, detailed prompts, sometimes Claude can kind of drift out of way. So you want to like be repetitive about important stuff that you want to consider. right? We don't want to build, read the whole thing. So this is pretty much what that plan mode is trying to communicate there. So we're focusing like with the database that we have. So our research question here is pretty much straightforward, like which bridges in Texas from that database carry the highest combined risk, right? So that's what, based on those conditions or the features that we have for bridges, let's try to analyze them. So the first one is, we're pointing Claude to, look up this data set that we have built, and we will be constructing kind of a composite risk score using just 3 of those columns that we got there, right? We can use more. This is just a naive approach from myself, but of course an expert will say, we should be including other features, but at the end it's getting kind of a weighted risk, a measure of the risk by weighting like the condition of the bridge, the age versus the design life, and the traffic exposure, right? And will give us like some metric of how risky is that bridge in particular, right? I'm also giving clear indications of the outputs that I want. I want to generate from that plan mode 4 figures, and at the end, like, I'm also asking at the end of that prompt, like, give me some kind of translate into what are the statistics of it, like put me just in some simple language, I guess, some basic explanation of it. So I think we'll get to this a little bit later. Also, you want to like, this is what I mentioned at the end, you want to like, then you can run an extra prompt saying, okay, explain me what we have been found, explain me the figures and so on. Right. So let's jump back here, right? So it runs already, ready to implement it. So now we have, it kind of read so it create the plan, it haven't executed yet. So it gave me a bunch of, ideas of what it's doing, and what is being saved is this file, plan.md, right? So you want to open it. Sorry, you open it here. This is what I'm getting. So implementation. So we will be implementing a large code, Python code that does kind of different things. And this is the whole explanation of the, what are the figures, what are the format, and then what are the columns that we're using, what are the files located. So it gives you like a massive like proposal of what it's going to do. And this is the place that you wanna, read it yourself, check it out, everything all right, review it, and then modify it, and then input it to Claude again to say, okay, this is the update version, right? We'll explore a slightly better way of doing that, but I guess you get the idea already.
How do you read the full 10-page plan and modify it versus going in with button mode and saying?
It depends how hungry I am, depends on how much sleep I had last night. So we have like, I'm going in that direction. I typically maybe read like 10% of it, just give like a really highlight level of checking that everything makes sense. And then that's what I'm going to explain next, going through other AI tools online and help it to review it for me, right? So that's something that I was explaining just now, right? So let's assume in this case, we are, say, happy with we have read it, right? We're very responsible, so we are not jumping into running tests. And so we're here. So this is our terminal. And then run the block, right? So we're happy with it. Thing is fine. And we just run it. So it will take like some time. I'll give you an idea of what David was pointing me out there. So this is how the full pattern like works for me, or this is what I actually like run like in real. So what you want to do, sorry, this is the way that I go typically is just, sorry, this is good. Okay. So we have discussed like in the previous slides, like why this plan mode matters, right? We want to like map the whole thing before we execute it. Now, when we have created the plan, I divide it typically in 4 steps, right? So you develop the plan, and then I take that plan, I copy it and paste it into Claude AI or ChatGPT or some other one of the chat box with the deep research mode, right? I guess you're familiar already with that button in ChatGPT or Claude. And I ask it to kind of tear the whole plan apart and critique it, validate it, show me implementations, examples from the literature, what are the pros or the cons of this plan, why it's relevant, where this kind of approach have failed before and why, kind of stuff like that, right? This is the typical stuff that consume all of your tokens, but it's part of it improves things like massively, right? Once you are happy with it, that's when you like go back, update your plan and execute it, right? And the reason like to do this, so we have created this plan, we put it online, we review it ourselves, we put AIs to read it and review it by themselves and so on. Then we have a good plan. So the reason why this works better is because we will get a little bit later on the workshop on this stuff, but typically the plans, when you look at them, if you're not like super picky, they look reasonable, right? Because in a sense, these kind of models they're just good at making like things that looks reasonable, right? That's kind of way they are so like convincing about the way they write, right? But in this case, like this deep research mode, when you put it online, it helps you to kind of catches all of that kind of stuff that could be wrong. That seems plausible, but could be wrong, right? So what I typically do in those cases is what I'm going to show here. I typically put like an extra prompt, and actually I'll do it. Sorry. So let's think about this. And the typical way that I go is just I design this prompt that will be reviewing the existing plan that we did, right? So, and typically could go to Claude. Right? So you go to the version online, or if you have many subscriptions, you can go to the competition, ChatGPT. And there is some people arguing that it's better just to use cross models, but I don't know. You don't want to be paying for many subscriptions, unless I guess the uni is paying for it. But yeah. So we have our plan. Sorry, I think this is another version, but we should also have a plan here. So we have our plan. This is the one that we developed earlier. And what I typically do is just like copy the whole plan, right? And then go to the website. Sorry, to the here. All right, so it says like paste the plan here. And I just paste it and then go here and put deep research, right? This stuff will take like 20 minutes just digging into the internet, looking like thinking about the whole plan and see what it's better, right? So probably just I'll just run it in ChatGPT, but you can do the same thing if you just have the Claude membership. You just go put the same stuff in here and put research, and it will do basically the same, right? So I'll just jump into it a little later there. We can check it then if we need it. We're not updating the plan here, but yeah. So let me check. Let's check if our plan was executed. So we were working here. Okay, so it's still running. This is probably the most consuming part because, you know, it's like checking all of the plan, creating the files, and then it will eventually run it and give us something. So it has been running for 5 minutes. So let's go back to our talk.
How many tokens would the $20 per month give you?
So it's like $1, 1 million tokens, I think. Yes. So I think the whole session, I make the estimation at some point, and it was like $0.50 for the whole session that we're running today. Yeah. It also depends on the model that you are using. So Claude have like, with the basic membership, you get access to Sonnet. With the full membership, you get access to Opus, which is a little bit faster, more accurate, right? So it kind of depends. Yeah. So this whole session is roughly like half of $1. The whole thing that we're doing today. Huh? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's actually a research assistant that, like, hear what you said and gives you good ideas, which is not the usual. So this is, the extra prompt that I just executed online to give me a better output. And this is another shortcut, and this is an advice that I typically do, how to write better prompts, right? You probably seen like all of the prompts that I show like are super structured and very cool. Like most people try to, write the perfect prompt in one go. Hard, honestly, unnecessary, right? Because you can use AI for it, right? So you can use AI to optimize AI, right? What I don't like about this is like eventually they will realize that, I'm the bottleneck and they say like, let's get rid of the human. Yeah. And let's do it ourselves. Yeah. So in a sense, like what I typically do, I typically write kind of a rough version of what I'm trying to do. It could be messy, incomplete. It doesn't matter really. Just, put it down, the whole idea that I have. Then paste it into Claude Browser or ChatGPT, and then, help me rewrite this prompt into a proper for an structured prompt from Claude Code, right? So it will build me something way better, and then I check it out if it makes sense to the messy stuff that I wrote before, right? So that's the way that you get better prompts. Yeah.
One thing is when you're typing out your instructions, sometimes typing is sometimes a little bit slow.
Yeah.
I've been using Whisperflow. That's a really cool.
Nice. Yeah.
That you just talk into a microphone, and it's really, really accurate, which means that you can do 250 words a minute. So you get way more context into that plan, instead of giving like these really not very context-rich prompts.
Yeah, great idea. Whisper, right? You just talk to it and to make the whole thing way more faster. So instead of struggling, as you mentioned, like writing the perfect prompt, you can use AI to compile your ideas and into a better instruction set for the model. It gives you clear structure, missing details, edge cases, so it helps like a lot. So, some other tricks. So in this case, we are not going to be debugging code, but from the last prompt in the plan mode, I commanded write this Python code and execute it. You typically want to then check, what the Python code is and how it's, if it's doing something right. But you want to, and this is like, I guess, key patterns that I typically use when iterating for debugging code. Like you want to be specific about, don't change existing function and just work on this one. Be specific about, I want add a function that does this and keep everything else in a sense, how it is. Other typical stuff, explain me what is happening in this block, and it will give you like a decent explanation. And for debugging, just getting like the error that you get, paste it there, what's wrong, and it will help you to debug it, to understand what's happening and potentially find some other stuff, right? So the key thing when you are debugging is you want to try to stay in control. So you are directing in a sense like what you want it to be changed, what stays, what get explained. So typically when you are prompting, you have like sometimes better you be prescriptive and sometimes you want to be a little bit more vague. If you are brainstorming, probably more vague. If you are like designing something specific, you want to be more prescriptive, right? And that's kind of you want to find kind of the sweet spot for the stuff that you're doing. Okay, cool. So let me just copy and paste that one in case that the other one run. Explain mode, and let's go back to. Okay, sweet, it run. Cook for 9 minutes, right? This is very slow for you. I'll go back into this. I'll just like copy and paste this one and let it run. What it generates from the plan is it's saying me all the 4 figures are now correct. It's cleaning some stuff, like everything is working. Here's the summary. So this is the Python function that it creates and the figures that are that were created, right? So it should be all in our folder.
But when it says all the figures are correct and everything is now working, how often is it right about that?
50-50, I guess. Yeah, of course you want to check later and then keep giving instruction of stuff that you want to modify. For example, if this is the figures that it created, so I indicate like I want to have some figures, and for example, let's see figure 1. Yeah. Doesn't look that bad, right? So you get straight out of the box some like risk score for every point that is a bridge, and it's giving you like distributed over the whole state of Texas. For instance, what I would do from that figure straight out of the way, I'll say like, sorry, in this way. So in the risk fig 1, probably to add Texas boundaries, major cities, and add 3 subplots on the right with zoom in to the major cities, right? Give it a command. Let's see like what it does. So let's leave it work for a bit, and let's think about the prompt that the next prompt that I put here with was kind of the explanation prompt. Yeah, let's go back to that one and then check out if the figure is created properly. We want to close this. Sweet. Okay, guys, so this is the next prompt. So this is the one that I run last. This prompt is more about kind of translation. So turning those like raw outputs into some scientific writing, right? So it depends on the audience. You can tune up this kind of explain analysis. This is of course optional, but I typically want to do it. Just giving some instruction to give me, some bullet points about. And in a sense, we're not asking here, Claude is not, we're not asking to do analysis in a sense. What we are asking here is just kind of reformat the results in a language that we can communicate for a student or a conference or a colleague or so on, right? So I guess there, in that sense, like the task tree is probably the most interesting too. We can also indicate, just point me out what some results that could be surprising, that could be, use it for, get interesting from the audience. And yeah, and at the end, like you want to be also specific. This is a key concept here. If you get like a vague prompt, you will get a vague answer, right? So the more specific you are here, the better. So let me just check if we have the new figure for us. One minute. Okay, let's give it a little bit more time. It's probably just like redesigning the Python file and then execute it and then check it out and go back.
And one of the good things is you can scroll up in the terminal and you can look at what it's doing because it prints those intermediate outputs.
Yeah. What we are going from here is that, you have the results, you have the figures, you have run some analysis around it. Let's think about like, you need to present this, you're in a rush for a conference, right? You haven't done anything yet and you're presenting tomorrow. So you need a decent, PPTX to do your stuff. So in this case, like it can do it for you, right? So it also writes like PowerPoint files. You can take like 5 to 10 minutes. And the key thing here, I think, is like we will run it and you will see the results. But the key thing is that you don't spend time with the templates and the formatting because it will create something like it probably won't take you to 100% of the job, but it will take you to 80 or 70 with all of the formatting and all of the time that we spend like building presentations, right? So that's kind of the key insight there. So no kind of slide by slide formatting. That's what I'm trying to say, right? The next prompt that I will run for the presentation is just a prompt that indicates, the typical structure for a presentation, the title, research question, data method. This is more for a conference, I guess. Key result, discussion, conclusions, and reference, right? And the key thing is like what I point at the bottom. This is a point you're not starting from a blank slide, right? You're starting from something that is already developed. So I'll keep this kind of that prompt copy and paste it so we can run it later. See, let's go back to here. Okay, cool. So it run like it apparently generate the new figure with the sweet. So let's go back to the folder. So this is the figure that we were working on. So something better, right? So it put the limits. Then you can increase the size, I guess, if you want. But here you can see, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston. This is probably Waco. Remember Waco? Any of you have been in Waco before? No? Cool name. Never been there, but. So as you can see, like pretty, decent figure for a 5-minute run, right? And we all know how much time we spend doing decent figures, right? So it's a extremely time-consuming task, right? Okay, cool. So we are there. So we're here. Let me just run the prompt for the PPTX. I'll just keep it running. It's using Python for generating the PPTX, so probably you want to have Python also installed.
Alberto, presumably you can put in, for example, figures or PowerPoint slides where in the folder where you say use similar formatting and font as
yes,
this thing that you've created from one of your things before, and then
totally. Actually, in the prompt that I was didn't went through it in detail, but I'm putting some formatting and stuff, right? And you can say, okay, just get the format from this particular file, and it will just like use the same. And it will tell you the errors in the previous PPT that you are pointing to, probably. Sweet. So just go back to this. So this is the conference presentation. We'll see how it looks like later, but so let me this is this kind of thing. So in this case, okay, so we know from this example, Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, they can think faster than us. They can work faster than us. Like, where are we here, right? Why are we still needed? So I think that what this plot is about, I think like AI in a sense, it helps us to kind of frame the work, right? It gives us like a clean structure starting point. It can organize slides, it can put figures, from code, it can summarize the result in bullet points or whatever, right? I think the important is to recognize what it doesn't do. And I think the real value, in a sense, like the real value of all of the research that we're doing, it still come from us. It still come from our experience, right? Because I think we are the ones that are building the story that connects those slides into a coherent narrative. And most important, as this kind of model doesn't have a proper sense of reality, they just live in this, in this cloud world. Probably we are the ones that understand what matters most, right? So you can get like a bunch of information and a bunch of answers and a bunch of options for this, but what deserves kind of emphasis and what doesn't, that's the role of the expert, on the keyboard. So in a sense, I think AI give us the structure, but we still have we shape the insights from it, right? So it's more like and I think those skills are, at least for now, irreplaceable from these kind of tools, right? So that's why it's not looking that bad the future, I guess, for us, but yeah. So in terms of, this is what we are going to move out after the after the presentation. I'll give you an idea of how I'm using it for developing kind of lecturing material, right? So first, like before we dig into the lectures, yeah, let me just check about this. Okay, it's still working there. Take another couple of minutes probably. Okay, so let's think about like we have the same project now. The audience is not a conference, but it's a it's a lecture for students. So we need to develop something around the topic of this bridge analysis that we're doing. This is the typical way that I construct my lectures, and kind of the order that I'm putting there is deliberate in a sense, but it's just my style. It could like fit yours. The way that I develop the lectures is just typically, if I have an hour, I go like probably five, sometimes 10 minutes to just warm up, like content and motivation for it. In this case, why do we need to care about the bridges, of the risk of the bridges, and get some motivation so you get the attentions of the students, right? Then you jump probably you go like 30 minutes of the technical stuff. From data structure through the risk formula in this case, and some of the results like those plots that I was showing and so on. And then what I typically develop, this is kind of I like to have some hands-on experiment during the class, some exercise like where they can run, right? So this is based on a teaching philosophy that I have. So Daniel is not here, right? No. So Daniel gave a lecture of teaching philosophy. I went to that one, so very rude that he didn't come to mine. But the key things, so during that session, like I actually asked Daniel, not having a teaching philosophy, is it having a philosophy? And he said, no, man, doesn't work like that. So this is my new philosophy, right? Tell me and I forget, show me and I remember, let me do it and I understand, right? So that's kind of the hands-on, I guess, John Dewey like style of philosophy, right? The way that I develop this prompt, so this prompt is the one for developing the lectures. What you will notice from here, just from a quick look, I'm asking it to develop 3 files. The first is just like, the first part is just like reusing, you can use all of the functions or load and clean and compute risks and some other stuff that we developed from the previous prompt. So it's kind of context aware in a sense. Then run the commands and then check that they are all right? So what I'm doing there is and then I guess what is interesting is the third one, which is the one that I'm developing this hands-on kind of tool. So what I'm asking to it is, develop this self-contained interactive HTML app, right? And with that name. And I give some idea of what I wanted to do, right? Not that much detail, but still detailed enough to do the proper thing and give some clear indications, right? So I'll show it to you later, but let's quickly get this prompt, copy and paste it. And then go to the, okay, so we run this. So this is the presentation one for the conference. I'll just run this one because it will also take a little bit. And let's go and check the files that we were created. Actually, at the end, we never check the other figures. Let's give it a quick look to the other ones. So that was the map one, reach edge versus minimum condition rating. Not sure if I understand this one completely. It's probably a good one, right? The distribution of the bridge risk scores, right? You have a median here, you have a bunch of bridge on the critical zone. However, this is obviously reflective of the weighting that I put for each of the variables. Then you can play with it and probably some expert could review those numbers. Yeah. But yeah, pretty out of the box, nice. This could be in a paper, right? So we can just send it there. Do the job. And this is the presentation that I developed for this stuff, the previous prompt. Great, right? Composite rates scoring is saying AI driven for 5. David Dempsey. Huh? Oh man, I told you we're not working for David anymore, man. We're not working for Rajesh now. Yeah, I guess like he's interpreting that I'm David because I'm using David's account. So yeah, probably will change that.
Didn't take ownership of the.
Not really. I'll take the whole. Yeah, I'll take the whole credit for it.
No, I mean the AI.
I'm the mind behind it, right? Yeah, it's just like blind plagiarism. I guess like we just like yeah. So yeah, you can see like it gives you like a decent presentation, well formatted. Everything seems to be in place. It's putting the figures right with some comments. I actually point at the end of that prompt that I want to give me like some stuff that I can say, right? So you can practice your own stuff. You can even ask it, put out all of those notes on an audio file. So you can, go, so in the bus, you can hear what you have to say later, right? Or going for a run and practice your presentation. Yeah, so many tools available there. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let me just close this one and let's see where we are in the lecture. Okay, it's generating the lecture. And let's go back to the presentation and tackle some other stuff. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the elephants in the room. So the first one is hallucinations, right? So this is still an issue with these kind of models. And let me just start by telling you a story. Yeah, summer 2025, Nevada, US. A lawyer submitted a brief citing 6 prior court cases, name, dates, case number, perfectly formatted. The judge asked for the original documents. They didn't exist. They all were invented by ChatGPT, right? And this is a real story, right? So it could happen to anyone, I guess. No warnings, no disclaimer, deliver with just total confidence, like the way that these kind of things write, right? Super confident. And the key things like the whole hallucination problem, all of these companies have different ways of tackling it. None of them have solved it, but what has been realized that the better the models, the better the lies too, right? So it's getting just obviously more convincing than it was before too. So they haven't gone away, and the sentence is really cool. So they said the judge said go to law school and warn lawyers about AI instead of asking for a fine, which is decent judgment from the judge, I guess.
I just provide some more feedback. I tried to use the one we've got in one of these things to draft a conference paper, and I ended up wasting more time and ended up throwing everything out because all the references it was doing and the statements it made were false.
Yeah. The reference is ridiculous. It just give you Yeah, I think the reason that, so you have all of these companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Perplexity, DeepSeek, all of them tackle the hallucination problem from different angles. We can talk about what are the strategy that everyone is applying for it later. But I think I think there is a embedded problem inside of these models that will prevent to be completely accurate in the future. So the key thing is so these models, the way they are trained, they have read extraordinary amount of human text online and compress it into some parameters, right? When you ask something to the model, it doesn't look for the answer. So it doesn't look online or look in some database for the answer. It constructs it, right? And it constructs the answer word by word or token by token based on some, statistically that make more sense for what is the next word to come next, right? So it's a tool designed for making plausible text, but plausible is not true, right? So, yeah.
Just one point, I think, because the thing that accelerated so much of hallucinations happen, people and the ChatGPT will make up references, etc., etc. You can guard against all that now. I mean, you use Google to research and you say specifically in the comments, make sure every single reference is a clickable link. I can verify it, check it, verify it, read it yourself, double check the point is correct. You add several lines, tell it to check everything.
Yeah.
Everything's bang on.
Yeah.
So you could, a lot of those early impressions.
Similar side with the plan mode, right? You wanted to review it like and go
if you
back
carefully
and
craft your
yeah.
prompt correctly, by context, and you can bypass all of those hallucinations.
Daniel, you were
Let me
saying?
also share one thing now. I also did try to play with using AI to check the references that I added. And the AI could come back and say they're all correct, but actually they are not correct. So kind of combinate them a bit.
Yeah. You use Claude to download it. Yeah, but you have to, I think.
There's a lot more steps.
Yeah.
Daniel?
Just there's recently quite a famous study that came out where researchers made up a fake disease, and then the recent AI models were actually trained on that fake disease and was actually recommending people that have that fake disease. So a couple of years ago, people were actually researchers plausibly created documentation about the fake disease, and that was now being trained into our latest models. It was relatively recent, came out maybe a couple of days ago,
Yeah.
week ago.
So this kind of a thing have been improving like quite massively during the last, like for example, the Gemini from Google, they are like using like, as they have the Google search, their model like look online for as many information as possible to check, like cross-check the information that is given. Claude is using like more like expanding the context and not looking to the web, or expanding the context as a way to get it more accurate. Perplexity, which seems to be the best one, is just using multiple agents to kind of like check each other's information. So there are different techniques, but the embedded reality is that these models make plausible text, not true, right? So you need to be aware of it. And this is just a typical stuff that you get from the hallucinations. Factually could make you create some factual information, some reference. We all have to deal with that, and also some context in a sense, right? So you need to be aware of them, and yeah.
Even if you're using Claude Code and it's only looking in the folder and the information that you've told it to look at, it's still going to create hallucinations from that information.
Yes.
But much less.
Depending on the context and the prompt, and you want to guide the reasoning, right? So you want to use it like for your kind of a structural analysis, but not for developing facts, right? So if you give a fact in one of your documents, it will probably keep it like that. But these kind of things also have a memory. So every time that you run it, it probably have in their memory like 200 pages, right? Once you cover that, if you put like 300 papers, I guess, eventually it will start like, forgetting some stuff, right? And what I do for it is like every time that I run the prompt, I just save like some text file with the main insights. Yeah. Oh yeah, but it's totally plausible, I think. Yeah.
I've been following along, and I've generated 4 references on the presentation. They're all correct. But one of the things in the early generation of the models, people asked the model, come up with a list of references, and it just generated text. Now you can say, find the papers, download them, put them in this folder, generate a .bib file for me to import to my citation manager, and you can verify each one. So instead of hallucinating a name or fact or disease out of nothing, it can give you the documentation.
The papers were generated by scientists on purpose.
But you could do Google and find fake data.
Okay, cool guys. So it finished with my lecture, right? So if I go here, probably I have some folder saying that is a lecture there. Yeah, lecture materials. So it builds the presentation. We don't want to go through it. It's just another of these like PPTX. This is the app that I was asking for, like for the hands-on experience. Just a really simple plot. Let's see how it looks like. Oh, I got it here. Sorry. Cool. So we have some type of like open, like Google Maps plot. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can check individual breaches and the conditions for the risk metric that is given. You can here also like, we can change the weight that we were like looking at it. So I have decreased the condition. Probably, the age is quite important. Then we update the map. and it will update again. So it's giving me more reds, so we can play with those. We can, I guess, okay, let's just plot some of them. Just forget about the low and the moderate. Just focus on the high and the critical. There you have. Right. So this is a game changer for a lecture, right? So you can build this kind of like really simple tools that easy to play with it. This is a HTML file, so I just put it for the student and they can open it in any browser and they can play with it by the end of the lectures and have discussions around it and all, right? So when you see it and when you play with it, that's what it's stick, right? So if you happen to work with, geospatial information and stuff like that, this is just amazing, right? Because you can develop these small tools specific for the, to tackle the problem that you are trying the students to understand, right? Cool. So let's go back to the presentation. So those were the hallucinations. So there is another elephant in the room, I think. We're all thinking about it, the privacy stuff, right? So the way that I work, at least now, there is not, university policy around this. So this is my own policy on how to, not get into the dangerous territory. So you need, at the end, you need to, use your judgment and design your workflows so the sensitive data never goes to the cloud service, right? So the way that this works, this operates in your folder. But every time you ask something, it uses the Claude online with an API, right? So all of the information that you give it, it will be run through the Claude or ChatGPT servers, right? So that's why you need to be careful about what you share there. The way that I do it, generating lectures, writing some exams question or exercise, fine. It's just like general knowledge. Drafting feedback if you want to draft feedback on some work of student work or PhD, anonymize it first. So, any names goes there. And there is a high risk area, which is, real student data, names, ID, grades, and so on. So that's the danger territory that we're not there yet, I think, right? Also with data that it could be sensitive, like if you have some sensitive data or we have some embargo coming in, you probably don't want to pull everything there because it will be run through the servers. However, there is an alternative. It's not there yet, but we have been thinking about with David and some other guys here. So you can develop these kind of local models that do kind of the same tricks, right? Let me just walk you a little bit. So the way that this works is that you have the current one, you have your laptop, right? You have internet and you have the Anthropic servers, right? Everything that you put in your laptop will go through there and give you the answer, right? So all of the information is passed through those servers. They have some options for privacy, I guess, and they have some stuff for privacy, but you never know that. So you can build your own local models that do similar tricks, right? So with a local model, in a sense, everything is stayed on your laptop. So if you let's think about this Claude Code, instead of calling the API online, you could call your local server that contains an LLM model there, right? And there are many alternatives now you probably can't download the top of the game models like Claude Sonnet or ChatGPT 5.2. But there are some other decent alternatives from like Alibaba, the QGen 3.5, and some of the DeepSeek and some of the Llama ones that are large enough. So those are like ChatGPT 4 to give you like enough sense of perspective there, that you can download it, put it in a server, and use it for your own purpose, right? And if you scale it, I guess, if we think about kind of for internal use, it could be used at a department level, at a faculty level, or a university, where you run your local models with clear rules for internal AI use. You own the kind of the infrastructure. You don't have to pay for tokens anymore. Data stay with the institution, and you can also train the staff kind of for responsible use, right? So you don't want everyone installing random tools, different for everyone. You probably, if you are an institution, you want just some localized stuff that can be run So you set it and Paul will develop it. And yeah. And if you are curious about how these kind of things work, take 404. We just gave like 2 weeks ago a lab with David where the students download a simple model, one of the simple DeepSeek models in their computer and prompt it and run it like locally, in the same sense. And you can just scale that stuff. Just last week, and also after it, a bunch of students were asking me, can we build this of a massive, they were thinking about building a company to provide this kind of service for industry, right? We can build your massive server with, this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty cool, and you can run it locally. So the privacy, so in a sense, is not sure if we're there yet, but still.
Just on the privacy.
Yeah.
If you go back a couple of slides, next one. How much of a
This
risk-
one or the previous one?
The previous one, that one. How much of a risk is there, like generating lectures? Obviously, our lectures, they're copyright. They shouldn't be available online. So if you're going to provide a lecture and it's going to go through your lecture, does that now mean we've potentially breached our copyright? Like it could be taking it and putting it online.
There is a risk because for example, the material that I just developed went through the cloud servers and come back, right? They need to be looking for it, I guess, if they wanna. I guess it's not Claude the risk, but potentially some other people hacking into the servers, and so yeah, I'll say that it's a gray area.
It seems a lot better because all our research data, that's the real value we've got when we generate new experimental data or some sort of data. So as soon as we start to share that, we're sort of potentially losing all the value of that data. So your next slide, it seems really urgent from my point of view.
I don't think that's the case because mostly if you're using these frontier companies, that contractually they say we're not going to take the data and do things with it. Been past that for a long time. So they want to be enterprise providers of software, basically. They want you to be using them for this purpose.
Yeah.
And they undermine that by saying, oh, and also we're taking your data and doing with it what we want.
You can also use these tools to write code for you, but use synthetic data when developing it. So all the code work can be done without your actual data. Then you run in a different folder, actually run the code and see if it does what you want.
Yeah.
That's what I do a lot with the sensitive data I use.
If it were my data, here I'm using a database downloaded from the web that is open access, right? If it was my data, probably, yeah, you need to take more,
Unpublished data, but I mean, if it's published data, right? And most of the stuff in your lectures is out there in the world anyway, right? So
Yeah.
all you're doing is feeding it back into the world and
Yeah, it's in the books, right? So yeah.
this is information that people are going to use, right?
Yeah, totally. What I think this means for academic or scientific use, all of this like hallucination and privacy stuff, always verify reference. This is kind of the rules that I use.
Thanks, Ben.
Cheers, man. Thanks. I go verify every reference, never trust the code that is on review, right? I'm really bad at that one. Sometimes I trust too much on this stuff. And then when I run it through co-authors, they say like, what is this, man? And I'm like, okay, let me ask Claude, which is very embarrassing. You don't want to be there. Cross-check a specific number. That's a big one, right? Every time that is giving you some factual information, double check it, right? So, and iterate with your expertise and use it for a structure, no facts, right? That's kind of one of the big ones there. Yep. Just to give you a quick idea of how I'm using this in my day-to-day, right? This is just a print from my couple days ago terminal running like multiple of these kind of agents in parallel. So each of these tabs that you are seeing there is essentially kind of a research assistant, right? It's kind of an agent working on a different project. So for example, these two ones here are my flood projects. This is something on fire forecasting. This is something on geysers. Yeah, another stuff. This is the Claude Code workshop that I was developing here. So you helped me with that, right? So at the end, like my role have kind of shifted, I think. So I'm no longer spending much of my time like implementing these codes, getting, technical implementations in a sense that takes, I used to work, just code a lot in Python, but now we have moved from there to, instead it's more like a supervising approach. That means, guiding the agents, setting directions, making sure that they are working on the right problems. And every day I'm just looping with them, like giving more insight and keep going forward, right? So, at the end, it's me deciding, like what is relevant, what it matters, what is probably noise or some stuff that doesn't worth anything. It's just separating the signal from the noise, right? And that's something that you can do daily and just give instruction on what the next steps are. And that in terms of research, it makes a huge like productivity jump. Yeah. So each tab is a research agent, supervising and focusing on the thinking, right? So no more like technical work, labor, but rather like thinking, providing guidelines, right? So that's, and deciding what is relevant from not, right? As this model don't have a sense of the reality itself, you are the one who have the sensitivity. So yeah. Also, I think this is an excellent, like, rabbit hole idea explorer, right? So this is the place that you want to like go wild in all of those crazy ideas that you probably all have all the time, and just dig into it and develop some prototypes and some proof of concept and see later if it's worth, keep pushing it to it, right? So it can help you, as you can see here, just in 1 hour, we developed like a full structure, like kind of small research project around some database. But you can do this with every idea that you have, right? So this is the tool to get into those rabbit holes. And that's the way that I have been using it. Just let me finish it up. Like, I think there are two truths there. So the first one, you are not competing with the machines, you are competing with the humans who use them, right? So there is probably a bunch of people out there like using this kind of tools already, like myself, and I know that some of you already have embedded in your workflows. But I think I think the key thing that is not humans and the machines, who is leading now, because kind of the rules for good work are the same. We still lack clear thinking, strong judgment, domain expertise to be able to kind of guide these kind of agents and models that haven't disappeared. What it changed is just the speed that everything will be moving from now on. And on the other hand, I think a comfortable true, and I think like this kind of, clear thinking, strong judgment, domain expertise, this is something that favors professionals like us who already have those skills, right? So I think AI in this case kind of amplify the good judgment that you have, right? And it helps you to not deal with time-consuming stuff, right? And it doesn't replace that good judgment. That's still in you, right? So that's why I put like, I don't think there is a better time to be an academic now, because now with this kind of tools, we can develop lectures faster, we can develop code faster, and focus on the thinking, right? And focus on, what is what matters, what is relevant, and how do we get there, right? Okay, cool, guys. Some topics for discussion if we'll still have some time. And yeah, and that's it. Not a chatbot. It's a collaborator. Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'm wondering if the people online is still there. So we have, if you wanna comment something, please jump in and ask. Yeah.
So the Claude account, so is it open to ask how to use or?
So it's still not there. So we are, my subscription is paid by a grant from David, but there is not a university policy around to get this.
So that means to pay our.
Yeah, for now. We're trying to push the idea to make it available for everyone.
The one mention about the one for the local, we can download there. I know there are some free, so have you tested this out?
Yeah, it's quite good, but you need a decent server to run a decent one. But we're thinking on developing like something like that in the department as a test.
But then some require NPU.
Sorry?
Some AI tools that you can download that will probably try some training them.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for the guys online. Thanks for joining us on this session, and yeah, see you around. And please come back to my office if you need any help or any clarification. Bye.
But what you can also do is that install like you're running out of page space last week.
Sorry?
You're running out of hard drive space.
Oh, no, it's because of the presentation, right?
No.
Oh, maybe the stuff that I'm building? Sorry, man, I was recording. How do I access? It's fine if I just leave, or
Yeah.
it should be saved, or if I leave it?
Yeah.
Right?
So.
This stuff